The courtroom was supposed to be a place of justice. Instead, it became a stage for quiet cruelty. A black teenager stood alone, judged before she ever spoke, her future reduced to assumptions made in seconds. Every glance, every smirk carried a message she'd heard her whole life, that she didn't belong, that she wasn't enough. But no one in that room knew why she was really there, and no one was prepared for how badly they had misjudged her. What happens when the system meant to protect becomes the very thing that exposes its own bias?
She was used to being invisible in rooms like this. Outside the courthouse, her life was quiet, disciplined, and small by design. School in the mornings, long evenings buried in library books, weekends spent helping her mother make ends meet. She learned early that excellence was safer than attention, that keeping her head down drew less trouble. People saw her as just another black teenager, young, uncertain, easy to label, but they never saw the hours she spent studying, the pressure she carried, or the purpose guiding every step she took. That morning, she dressed simply on purpose, no jewelry, no confidence on display, just calm eyes and steady breath as she walked through metal detectors that always seemed to linger on her a little longer. The courtroom buzzed with quiet authority, polished wood, raised benches, people who believed power naturally belonged to them. She took her place without complaint, already feeling the weight of judgment settle on her shoulders. The judge barely glanced at the file before forming an opinion. A look passed across his face, familiar, dismissive, certain. To him, this was routine. Another case, another young person who needed to be taught a lesson. The room seemed to agree, waiting for the predictable outcome. But beneath her stillness was something no one noticed. This wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was patience. She had come here knowing exactly how this would look and exactly how it would end. Because this day wasn't about what they expected her to be. It was about revealing what they never imagined she could be. The tension in the courtroom thickened the longer she stood there. Every movement was watched, every pause interpreted as uncertainty. Papers shuffled, a clerk glanced up, then away. The judge leaned back slightly, already signaling control of the room. The case moved forward quickly, as if its outcome had been decided long before her name was called. To everyone watching, this was a formality. To her, it was a test of endurance. The judge's body language told its own story. There was impatience in the way he skimmed the documents, irritation in the way his eyes lingered on her clothes, her age, her posture. The assumptions were unspoken but heavy. Young, black, out of place. The kind of person the system expected to explain herself, not challenge it. The room absorbed that energy, settling into a quiet agreement that she was already at a disadvantage. As the proceedings continued, the imbalance became sharper. Mistakes in the file were brushed aside, inconsistencies were ignored. Details that could have helped her were treated as irrelevant. Each overlooked fact tightened the pressure, making it clear that fairness was conditional. The law, it seemed, was flexible, just not in her favor. Viewers could feel the injustice stacking up, moment by moment, like weight on her chest. Still, she remained calm, too calm for someone who was supposed to be nervous. Her silence wasn't weakness, but restraint. Inside, her mind worked faster than the room realized, tracking every misstep, every careless assumption. She noticed how quickly authority dismissed her presence, how confidence turned into carelessness when no resistance was expected. And that was when the shift began. The judge pushed forward, growing more certain, more dismissive. The court moved closer to a ruling that felt inevitable. Observers might have thought this was the breaking point, the moment where she would be overwhelmed. But instead, something subtle changed. Her posture straightened, her stillness sharpened. The patience she had carried into the room transformed into quiet resolve. This was the danger of underestimating someone who had prepared for this exact moment. While the room rushed toward judgment, she waited. Every second that passed increased the stakes. If she revealed too much too soon, they would shut her down. If she waited too long, the decision would be made without her. The margin for error was razor thin. The tension peaked as the judge prepared to finalize his stance. The room held its breath, unaware that it was standing on the edge of embarrassment. No one realized that the power dynamic was about to flip, that the very confidence fueling the injustice was about to be its undoing. Because the next move wouldn't come from the bench, it would come from the person everyone believed had none. The judge leaned forward, his voice firm, final. This was the moment the room had been moving toward, the point where authority would close the door and walk away unchanged. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if everyone understood that whatever happened next would define her future. One decision, one sentence, a life quietly reshaped by someone who never bothered to truly see her. Then she moved. Not in panic, not in protest. With calm precision, she stepped forward, her voice steady in a room that suddenly felt too small. Heads turned. The judge paused, irritation flashing across his face at the interruption. This was not how things were supposed to go. This was not her role. She reached into her bag and placed a single document on the table, slowly, deliberately. The sound of paper hitting wood cut through the silence. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the judge's expression. He read, then read again. The confidence drained from his posture, replaced by something far more dangerous: realization. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The shift was unmistakable. The person they had dismissed wasn't confused. She wasn't unprepared. She was in control. Credentials emerged, training, experience, a truth that rewrote the entire narrative in seconds. The same system that had tried to silence her now stood exposed by its own arrogance. The judge's voice softened, then faltered. Authority, once absolute, now trembled under the weight of its mistake. Every assumption he had made collapsed at once, leaving behind a room filled with disbelief. Faces that once watched her with indifference now stared with shock, struggling to reconcile who they thought she was with who she had been all along. And in that moment, it wasn't just her victory. It was a mirror held up to the room, forcing everyone to confront how quickly they had judged and how wrong they had been. The power had shifted. The silence spoke louder than any verdict ever could. Because the story was no longer about a black teenager standing alone in court, it was about a system that had just revealed its bias and couldn't take it back. The courtroom didn't erupt in applause. There were no cheers, no dramatic reactions. Instead, there was something far more powerful: silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence that followed the truth as it settled into every corner of the room. The case ended differently than anyone had expected, not because the system suddenly became fair, but because it had been forced to confront its own failure. She walked out of that courthouse unchanged in who she was, but forever changed in how clearly she now saw the world. The experience confirmed what she had always known, that intelligence, preparation, and integrity are not always enough to protect someone from bias. Even with credentials and proof, she had still been dismissed, still been judged by appearance before ability. That realization stayed with her long after the courtroom doors closed. Yet the moment also strengthened her resolve. What happened wasn't just personal, it was representative. For every person who gets the chance to reveal the truth, there are countless others who never do. People whose voices are cut off before they can speak. People whose potential is buried under assumptions they didn't create. The system doesn't always announce its prejudice loudly. Sometimes it whispers it through impatience, dismissive looks, and unchecked authority. Her story spread, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was familiar. Viewers saw themselves in her patience, her restraint, and her refusal to become what the system expected. It forced an uncomfortable question into the open. How many lives have been quietly shaped by judgments made in seconds? This wasn't a victory over racism. It was a reminder of how deeply it still exists and how easily it hides behind routine and tradition. The real impact of this moment isn't in what happened that day, but in what happens next. So the question is no longer what she proved in that courtroom. The question is what we choose to do when we recognize bias in our own lives. Will we stay silent, or will we finally challenge the systems that depend on us not to?